What's up, guys? Oldhead Mike here. In my complete MySpace armor set, here to review by Patreon request, I Wrestled a Bear Once first EP. Let's f***ing go! What the f***? Alright, so again, this was requested by Patreon, Jake Wallace. Thank you, Jake. He actually just wanted me to do a reaction, but I already knew this was always one of my favorite albums, actually, during the MySpace era, so I figured I would do a full album review for him. So if you want to request album reviews or other things and be like Jake, go check out my Patreon. Helps me out so much. And again, thanks to all my patrons. You guys mean a lot to me. Make sure you kick that subscribe button. Check out my horror channel and other stuff down below. And let's dive in. Alright, so I Wrestled a Bear Once is a band that was active from 2007 to roughly 2015 when their third full-length album came out, and they kind of just disappeared shortly after and then found out that they weren't together anymore. Their genre is hard to place. My favorite descriptor for them, though, is MySpace grindcore, which is kind of like, you know what? Here's a Venn diagram. I've always loved this band. I even have an old picture from MySpace when I saw them in a tiny bar in Oklahoma and got to meet Krista. So this album, this EP, is their first release and led to 3 subsequent full-length albums afterwards. This album was so different at the time that it came out. It was extremely innovative with its fusion of deathcore and grindcore, metalcore, and jazz influences. So I think it was way ahead of its time, but it was also silly and gimmicky, so it was kind of perfect for the time that it came out. If it came out now, I think they would have to rework some of the silliness to kind of stay relevant, because it's not that it didn't work or, you know, didn't land or anything. It obviously did, but it's just now we all have depression. Brought influence to a ton of bands, namely Spiritbox, which features the second guitarist and the second vocalist, Courtney LaPlante. For I Wrestled a Bear Once, they don't really sound a lot alike, though I firmly believe that Spiritbox probably would not exist if I Wrestled a Bear Once didn't exist. And Spiritbox is, if you've watched my other stuff, Spiritbox is pretty much my number 1 current music right now. They also influenced Ginger, which has the same kind of chaotic feel, but more of a Meshuggah sound, but still has some very interesting jazz influences in interludes, just like I Wrestled a Bear Once did, but without being gimmicky, of course. I Wrestled a Bear Once is kind of divisive, as the extreme grindcore-ish like speed of the drumming and the chaos definitely can be described as abrasive. I think that the thing is that the gimmickiness is actually what made it accessible to a lot of people, and got them to appreciate the heavy stuff more, and eventually led them to listening to plenty of other heavy. So good on you guys, I Wrestled a Bear Once. The album itself is kind of a masterpiece, if I'm being honest. Almost every song blends like some extremely heavy deathcore with melodic or jazz sections, like even with clean singing, which is not very common in like deathcore, grindcore sounding stuff. Not to mention absolutely crushing breakdowns. Which all work despite all of the drumming on this EP was actually done by a drum machine instead of a real drummer. There's only 5 songs on this EP, so if I had to pick one standout track, it would be Ulrich Firelord, Breaker of Mountains. God, I love MySpace song titles. With its electronic jazz interlude. That leads into a synth-filled breakdown. Which leads into a second breakdown. That's like a interpretation of either In the Hall of the Mountain King, the orchestral piece from 1875, or Inspector Gadget theme song. No one really knows. No one will probably ever know, though it's kind of a mix of the two. And that song really showcases the true like craziness and innovation in this album. And it's the first track on the album as well, so it's just punch right as soon as you jump in. So guys, I really hope you all go back and listen to this album. Give it another listen through if you haven't listened to it in a while, because I honestly, after 13 years going back and listening to it more, found a different appreciation for everything this album did and the different sounds it accomplished. I will always and forever give this EP a 10 out of 10. As long as you go and listen to Smells Like Kevin Bacon immediately after. But yeah, thanks for dropping by. Make sure you kick that subscribe button. Again, check out my Patreon if you want to recommend some albums and things, which will then be voted on. And other than that, if you'll excuse me, I've got to go get out of these clothes. I think I've lost circulation to my legs.